Hello all my Kinvians and welcome to a new episode of Discovering Steven Universe. Today the episode I'm going to be watching is Storm in the Room, and it has been a few days since I recorded the previous episode, so just to sort of recap, my estimation as to what this episode might be about is, since it is in regard to a room, or the room, I'm guessing it's probably going to have something to do with one of the gym's rooms. My best guess would be is that it's probably Steven's room. Because, I don't really have much to base it off of. It just seems like it's the most possible one to me. And since it's a storm in the room, it might have a lot to do with how Steven's been going through a lot of emotional turmoil lately, to say the least. So it might reflect that. Anyway, that's just my guess, but let's begin and get right into it with Storm in the Room. Oh, and you might notice that the setup's a little bit different right now. I'm curious whether or not you all might prefer this setup. Let me know in the comments down below. But really, I'm doing it this way because I want to keep the camera in one place while I'm doing some other things at the same time. Anyway, to get back to what I was doing before. Let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
And now that you're back from space, I officially relinquish control of your bed to you.
Thank you for keeping it warm, sir.
I hope your dad lets it down. Explosion!
Wow, you're really worried about your mom, huh?
Yeah.
It's just, she's never late for anything.
Aww.
I'm coming in.
Oh, she used the meditation technique. Aw.
Missing. Football. Touchdown.
Steven.
There's the Peanuts reference.
I've even thought about dyeing my hair pink. More than once.
There's nothing wrong with your hair. It's wonderful just the way it is.
Aw.
Wonderful in every way.
This is the first time we've hung out together. I gotta capture this moment.
Oh.
With me. Just talking to myself. I finally know the truth. I know what you are. You're a liar. I thought you never wanted to hurt anyone, but you hurt everyone. And that's why I'm here, isn't it? Did you make me just so you wouldn't have to deal with all your mistakes?
Oh, jeez.
Is that all I'm here for? You're a part of me now. I have to deal with what you left behind.
God. Ugh.
They were all out of pepperoni, by the way, so I just got you mushroom. I hope that's all right.
It's perfect.
Oh. Okay, so I skipped the music last time. I want to make sure and... So, all of this is a continuing theme. All of the... Like, the end music. I thought it was going to be done, after the Steven bomb, but from what people have told me in the comments, that's not true. It actually is continuing on through, I guess, the rest of this season. So, the Storm in the Room. Now, I'll be honest, my first impression was that this was only really even half of an episode, because the first half of it didn't really focus on the overall topic at all. But as it kept going along, I realized I was wrong in that regard. It's like the first, I guess, half-ish of this episode, maybe close to a third, was obviously around waiting on Connie's mom to come pick her up, and Connie's increasing worry about what might have happened. And it kind of, in my eyes, it brings this episode to have two overall themes. The first of which is just the concept of having a mom. Of having a mom and even being a mom, if you look at it from the perspective of Mrs. Meshwaran, I can't pronounce her name right, and Rose. And, you know, the worry that them not being there leaves in their children. Now, for Steven, it's a lot different of a kind of worry. It's like, it's everything. Everything that Rose ever did, seemingly, everything she did in the past, it's basically kind of coming back to haunt Steven. In some ways, in some good ways, and in some bad ways. And then with Connie and her mom, it's this idea that her mom is never late. Her mom is always, you know, very strict by the rules, and for Connie's mom to fall out of that pattern, for her to not be there, was so out of the norm for Connie that it led her to, I mean, not have a panic attack, but she was panicking. She, like, everything from the Mad Libs, or whatever version they were doing with that, like, all the words she was picking were just very, you know, disaster related. And then just the relief for Connie when her mom did finally show up. And then that brings us to Steven's side of it, which I'm going to hold on talking about that before. First, I do want to touch on some of the things that I wrote down here. First of all, just before Connie's mom shows up, we see Connie do I can't remember exactly what it is, basically the hand motion of the meditation from a Mindful Education episode, where Garnet, when they were formed as Stevonnie, taught them that meditation, and she did the hand motion, sat in the meditation pose, and took a deep breath. And I thought that was a wonderful, subtle little form of not only, you know, referring to the canon of what has happened. It's like, you know, things that Connie and Steven have learned, but also it's showing the kids, or just people in general that watch this show, that wasn't just a one-off thing. This is something that can be included in the characters' lives outside of being in the form of Stevonnie. It's something that they're carrying forward with them through the show. And I'm sure that probably won't be the last time that we'll see the hand motion, the meditation pose. I'm sure it'll probably come up again at some point. When or where, I have no idea, but I really like that. In addition to that, one thing that really struck me through this episode, in the gap between when Connie and her mom leave and when Steven goes into the room, is there was a significant amount of dead air. Or not even necessarily dead air, but just silence. A palpable silence. A silence that Steven felt by no one else was there with him. There was no one there to distract him from that silence. And with that silence comes these introspective thoughts. These thoughts that he came to explore about his mom. Even before the room opens up, when he's talking to the picture. Like, he starts dwelling on those thoughts and actually talking to his mom, you know, through the picture. Which, of course, you know, in that sense is talking to himself. So again, it's like sort of introspective. So yeah, that segment of, yeah, I don't know if dead air is the right phrase, but just that palpable silence that encompassed everything for that little while was really powerful. And it's it was definitely a very strong transition into what came next, which was Stephen being able to be with an image of his mom in the room. So yeah. And then in addition to that, well let's just go into me talking about Stephen and his mom. When he goes into the room, that was some of the most heartfelt animation, the most heartfelt emotions coming from Stephen. His voice actor is Zach. I can't remember his last name, but did a wonderful job in just expressing the emotions that Stephen was experiencing during those scenes. And before things start to get really deep with that, one of the absolute standout moments for all of that was seeing the Peanuts reference, with Rose taking the form of Lucy and Stephen being Charlie Brown, and pulling the football out of the way. That was such a cute reference. I really enjoyed that. Then of course there's the rest of everything there. It was wonderful getting to see Stephen get to experience being with his mom, even if it's a false or just an image. It's not really his mom, but getting to be around a figure of his mother. Like, he's had mother figures to a degree through Garnet, through Amethyst, through Pearl, especially Pearl. And I guess you could even say Peridot and maybe Lapis. Maybe Lapis would be more of an older sister or something like that. I don't know. But, and Amethyst too, actually, really, yeah. But just the way they portrayed that experience for Stephen was really beautiful. And it's like they portrayed him experiencing these emotions that those of us that grow up with moms our whole lives perhaps take for granted. Just, the joy of seeing your mom, of, getting to tell her you love her, of getting to be near her, being able to be comforted. That's something that Stephen has never gotten. As a character, obviously. And when I say take it for granted, for a lot of people, not all. I mean, obviously there are people who have very complicated and unfortunate relationships with their mothers and parents. But for many, it's like those happy experiences, it's something that, when I say you take for granted, it's something that has always been there for you. It's something it's a constant, really. Whenever you are with your mom, it's, your mom hugs you, she comforts you, she loves you. And because that's there your whole life, you start to take that for granted to a degree. But then the way they portrayed Stephen here is, can you imagine meeting your mom, your dad, or, just your parental figure, someone who you've known your whole life, and not getting to meet them until you're 14? Like, not getting to see that person in person, not being able to be hugged by them, or forgetting that all of that ever happened. But then all of a sudden you meet this person who loves you. And God, I'm falling back into rambling again. I apologize, but it's just, I really like the way they portrayed that. Just getting to see Stephen be legitimately happy in a very childlike way, which hasn't been something he can do for a long time because, again, he's been under such emotional turmoil and he's been forced to grow up in many ways that for like an actual person not only wouldn't be fair, it could be dangerous, like psychologically. Or at least, you know, that's how I take it from my perspective. And then that brings us to the actual storm, when Steven confronts this image of his mom and like just really lets loose with how he feels, with everything that's been going on in his mind. And it's, I think that, and then this image of his mom, whether it's something that was perhaps a memory held within the room, or perhaps even just his mind, because all of this is created by his mind. It's something that he needed to hear or wanted to hear. I don't know the full explanation, but when Rose points out, you know, what she said in the video, that she truly wanted him to exist. She wanted him to be there. And that she never wanted him to have to go through or experience all that he's done, but it's the only way it could be, and still allowing him to exist, because in order for him to exist, she no longer can. So yeah, I don't know, this is a very bittersweet episode. I really liked it. I really, really did. It is a wonderful episode. Just very, very somber, I think, in the end. I do love with the way they ended it, with all the crystal gems and Greg showing up and bringing him a pizza. And yeah, it was just really good. I love this episode. I really, really did. So yeah, everyone, thank you so much for being here for this episode of Discovering Steven Universe. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this episode, what I had to say about this episode, whether or not you think I'm rambling too much, which I would venture to say the answer would be yes. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching the next episode, which, let's actually take a quick look here and see what that episode might be coming up after Storm in the Room. Okay, so the next episode is going to be called Rocknaldo. I would venture a guess as to who might be involved in this episode. It should be pretty obvious. And I guess the only way to find out what kind of episode it is to check it out myself. So, until next time, everyone, for Rocknaldo, I am Papa Ken, and I will see you in the next episode of Discovering Steven Universe.